But I just found that for me, this worked great. And for me, I have to do a higher level of meringue powder because I'm a procrastinator. So to make my icing dry faster, I use a little bit more meringue powder in mine. So, okay, let's make icing. Pretty exciting. I do weigh everything. I have an empty bowl, and I use the beater. I'm very lazy, so I usually make my icing in 4-pound increments, so I don't have to measure the icing. So the icing calls for just 2 pounds, so it's just half a bag. I also do not sift my powdered sugar. I do not sift anything. As you can see, I really just pour it all in. I don't think it fixes anything or it helps anything. To me, it doesn't fix the lumps or anything like that. So I don't do it. But I do weigh everything, and I do everything in grams. So for 2 pounds of powdered sugar, for me, I do 64 grams of meringue powder. And like you can see, I just like put it straight on top. So I also love the flavor of Genie. So I'm going to be really honest with you. You have so many cookiers that flavor things and do everything like that. I actually do not flavor my Royal. I'm also not a strictly cookie person. I do cake as well. So because of that, I don't really get into all the different flavors that a lot of the cookiers do, because it's not my main bread and butter, and I don't want to get sidetracked, because then my menu turns into a Cheesecake Factory menu, and I have like 4 million options, and no one has time for that. So that's all I did. I just put that in, and then I start let me bring my camera over here just so you can see inside my bowl here, so you can watch it. I just turn it. There you go. I turn it on, and I do have half a cup of water, but I'll be honest with you. I really let it go until it's pretty nice and tight. I like it when it comes out of the mixer that it's really, thick and sticky. Look at this. I got this new nifty thingamajigger. As you see, it's really stiff. And then that's pretty much as I'll do with it. I don't let it go for a long time, because I feel like the more air you get in it, the more chance you get of bubbles. And that's pretty much, ta-da, that's pretty much it. So we're gonna go, and I'm gonna pull this out so you can see what it looks like. And then, here, I'm gonna switch to this one so you can see this one. But you can see it's really thick. See how thick? Okay, so it's pretty thick. So I like to work with my icing in batches, and you can make your icing thicker, you can make your icing thinner, based on whatever your needs are. So, does anyone have any questions so far at all? No? Okay.
There's a question in the chat. Would you recommend cane or beet as better option for sugar?
No, I just use, no, you definitely just want confectioner sugar, because you don't want granules at all. You also want to make sure that you always are keeping everything covered. So I just covered that. So definitely stick with confectioner sugar. All right. So you see, this is pretty thick. It's not going anywhere. All right. Here's what I do. I am not a person that does like a certain second of icing. The goal for me for icing is when I pipe it, when I outline it and flood, I use the same consistency. And my way of figuring out if I like my consistency is that I mix it up like this and I shake it. And if it goes flat on its own, I'm done. That's, to me, that's like, you're good. See how it went by itself? But you have the people that will go through it like this and be like, okay, how many seconds do I take? But I have found you can do a true flood. I see. Okay, I'm just going to do like a dot more. So I have found you can do, some people like to do a true flood. I do not like to do like a, the 17-second flood or the this or that. It just, for me, I just find that it takes forever. And so I just like to do the bowl shake method, and the bowl shake method works awesome. Okay. So I use tipless bags. Everything I do is tipless. I don't like tips. I will use tips if I have to, but I only use them when I need like a certain type of a tip. But other than that, I don't. So I fill a cup, and I use, depending on what the consistency is or what I'm doing with the icing, I will usually make myself a smaller bag full of icing for my outline, and then I will do another bag for my, let me go this way, and then I'll do another bag for my flood. Okay. Any questions so far? No? All right. Let me fill both of these, and then I'll tie them. So I switched over to tipless like quite a while ago, and I really have fallen in love with it because it's, you don't have to wash, and you just kind of toss it. So I wouldn't say it's great for your environmental footprint, but oops, Okay.
Melissa, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Courtney again. So I have seen some tipless bags on Etsy that I know somebody that prefers. I have been using the Masters off of Amazon, but every now and then I have issues when I'm making a really small tip. It seems like the seam can be too big and get in the way. Or sometimes if I'm doing roses or something 3D and I want thicker frosting, I'll have a blowout. Have you experienced that with the TMPs?
So I started with Masters, and then I started to realize it really was based on your batch, and they were never consistent, and I started getting blowouts. So I switched to TMP. I have not had a blowout since I switched. Grunderfully Delicious, she has bags that are awesome. Sinful Cutters are a nice thicker bag. So if you like that thicker kind, they're great. This one's really thin and has like little grippies on it. So I like it, and it's never blown out for me. So I get a perfect circle and all of that, but the Masters are inconsistent all the time. I've had that problem.
Melissa, Karen asked what a blowout was, and someone responded the bag breaking, but it's a little bit more than that. Can you describe it more?
So basically, when you have your piping bag and you're piping, you will be putting so much pressure that the seam will just completely explode. And it'll explode sometimes like up here in the middle. So it's not like down here. It explodes in the bag, and the seam just rips open, and all your icing goes boom. And sometimes it goes all over like an actual cookie, and then you're like, but they're awful. But yeah, so I would try TMP. I have absolutely adored their stuff, and but if you like more of that thicker, that Wilton feel, Sinful Cutters has those, and they're very good as well. They don't blow out either. Yeah. So here's how I secure my bags. You have like tons of options. You've got like these cute little these little opener thingies, or Sinful Cutters, these little cap thingies. You can also tie it in a knot. I don't do any of that. So I have this handy dandy little doodad that I bought. Creative Cookier sells it, the same people that do the genies, and it just seals my bag for me instantly with a tag. And what's nice is you can actually write on the tag, like if you had something that was like just a pipe or just an, you know, to writing or flood, you could have technically write on your tag. So I will always move like all my leftover icing to like fresh bags and seal it, and then it stays better. You can massage it to reconstitute it like days later. See, look, I'll show you this. So let me move this up. So when I decorate cookies, I always have leftover icing. Do not ever get rid of your leftover icing. Never. So I will look, and I, like, for example, this navy started because I had leftover teal, and then I added some blue, and then I moved it over to navy. But if I'm gonna do stuff and like I have all these weird colors, like I'm never gonna make orange, like this will just become black. Like you can take all your leftover icing and make it, and then that goes to black. And I always recommend, like when you're gonna do those darker colors, like even if I was gonna do a red or the blue, start with a colored icing. Before then, you're adding more color. So if you go and you mix all these colors, it'll make a really muddy color. You'll only need a couple drops of black to get to black. Like you're almost there. It's like with buttercream. It's usually easier to take buttercream to chocolate, and then for chocolate to become black than it is to make vanilla buttercream, black buttercream. It's just the better route. It takes less dye. And when you start to oversaturate your dyes, that's when you will get craters. That's when you will get bleeding. And all of those is because you have too much dye or you have too much water in your icing. So I literally have like bag all the icing. And because it is just sugar, meringue powder, and water, it's not going anywhere. It's, you know, and I make my icing in a big tub, and it's here. Now, does it need to be restirred? Yes. So, and I store my leftover icing on the counter. I don't store it in, I use it too quick, and it doesn't need to be refrigerated, but I store it, I will re-tie it into a freshly sealed bag, and then I will put it in Ziplocs, or I will store my fresh icing in a big tub like this. And then I'll just work from it. And because I mix all of it, you'll see when it sits, yeah, like it has to be remixed up, but it's not remixed up in a mixer. I just stir it, and it will go right back to exactly what I need it to be. But I always keep it super duper thick, because then I can thin it based on, you know, if I'm flooding, I can thicken it if I need to, but it's always nice to start at this nice thick point and not chase your icing. So if you add too much water in the beginning, you're chasing it with powdered sugar to tighten it up. So water will loosen and powdered sugar will retighten your icing. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want, but it's always easier to go loose than it is to chase it. That makes sense?
Melissa.
Yes.
Yes. Melissa, if you're not going to be using it as quickly, like I only do cookies maybe once a week, how long do you think you can store it just on the counter?
Like this, this was made the first week of February.
Okay.
Because really, remember, meringue powder is shelf stable, it's water, and it's confectioner sugar. That's all it is. So it doesn't change the science of it when there's no activation of the meringue powder. You can absolutely store it in the fridge. And I know many people that store them in the fridge because they don't have counter space. So you can store all of it in the fridge. It's not going to change the consistency of it as long as it's airtight. Air is the enemy of royal icing. So it, you know, the quicker it touches the air, the quicker your icing is going to harden up and start doing what it's supposed to do, which is harden because your water is evaporating from it. So that's the key, is to keep the water in it as long as you need the water in it.
I have one more question about that.
Of course.
So there's a lot of different royal icing recipes as long as there's water. I've heard of some people using milk, but as long as there's water, if I add things like corn syrup or vanilla flavoring, it should still be shelf stable, right?
Yeah, if you're just doing the corn syrup and your flavorings, you're fine. But if you start touching milk, yeah, you have to go in the fridge. And then I believe that it's not a true royal recipe with the milk in it. I've never worked with milk and royal. Now I have worked with corn syrup. You have some people that are like diehards because they feel like it makes a softer bite and it has, and for shine. So my royal is still soft, so I can go and bite in this cookie. I heat seal them or package them. I always seal them, but you can go into them in 2 weeks and it's still a soft bite. It has a nice little crust, but her meringue powder is pretty awesome, and it is like magical. So it does still maintain it. But I just find with the corn syrup, it takes longer to dry, which is totally not a problem if you have the wait time. So yes. Okay. Let's talk about, let's move over here and we'll slide over. And then this way you guys can see and we can talk about actually like piping and doing a cookie. So, all right. So I use a turntable for my cookies because I feel like it's, well, here, I'll like put this video up so you can see. And then if you want to see my face again, just raise and it swivels. So I got, like so many people sell this. This one came from, I think, LC Sweets. I always have wet paper towels because that is the key to not letting any air or get into the tips of the icing. You can use these cute little doodaddy things, but I'm going to be honest with you, like, because it goes like that. You know, it's like a condom for your bag. But I'll be honest with you, wet paper towels does the trick for me. And I live by them. I don't like anything on my hands, so I completely live by them. I have a Scribe, pretty one. I made it. I love the Scribe. Took me a while to get into the Scribe thing, but it is great for moving icing, popping those nasty little bubbles, and all of that doodad. Okay, so let's talk about your tipless bag because I know some people have not gone tipless yet, and they're all freaked out. Like, what do we do? How do we do it? So you'll see, let me go this, okay. So you'll see a seam that runs down your tipless bag. If you push that seam flat and then you cut along it, that is how you will get yourself the perfect circle. And I always say this, cut less. You can always cut more later. Ta-da. Okay. And then I'll cut the other one a little bit wider. But if I'm not working with my icing, I will have it covered. Some people do it, some people don't. I just always cover it because I feel like it's just easier than dealing with a crusted up lump and having to transfer your icing to a different bag, which is not a big deal, but at the same time, how many bags do you really want to go through? Not a million. Okay, so let's talk about, oh wait, I'm gonna tell you this trick because this is like my favorite trick. Okay, so you see, I told you guys to have Scotch tape. Watch this, mind blown. So when you're all done with your icing for the day, and like, let's say you're like, ugh, I've got to go make dinner. I don't want to do anything. You squeeze your icing down so that your edge is empty. Do you see edge is empty? You put a piece of Scotch tape, ta-da, and you will seal your edge. It will not drip. I'm like, I have issues clearly trying to figure out. It will not drip or whatever, and then you can come back to it, reconstitute it like this, and then you just pull your Scotch tape off, and you're good to go. How cool is that? Come on. Come on. That is so cool. All right. So I, of course, like I told you, I am a lefty. So a lot of times I tell people when you're practicing anything, practice. You can practice. You can put, People want to work on writing all the time. You want to work on lines. Put it in a page protector. Practice. I live by it. Practice on parchment. If you have something you want to work on, practice it. A lot of this stuff is muscle memory, and it's your brain trying to remember how to go. So I have my hand, and here's how I hold my bag. I hold my bag like this, and I always have a finger anchoring. Let me see, is that how I do it? Yeah, I have a finger anchoring, but let's see if you can see. And then you see how gorgeous this icing is? Okay. Oh my God, look, you can barely even see it. But you see, it's a perfect line. But see, that's like, how easy is that to practice? You just practice with that. So this icing, I can flood with this, and I can outline with this. And if you want to practice, you can practice anything. But let me move to this because I think it might be easier. But you want to put your icing down, and you want to like let your icing fall. Not like that. But you see how you can do this? So I was trying to go up high. But you want to let your icing, you want to kind of let your icing fall into place. And then you can move your icing. And it has elasticity in it. So you just can go around and around, but it's like having control. So you want to see, like, do I need my bag wider? Is this a good outline? So here, I'm going to outline a cookie, and then let's talk about it. I'll outline this cookie because it's something, and then we'll flood it. All right. Can everyone see, and does anyone have any questions? Is everyone good? Okay. All right. So, all right. I'm going to try to outline this and let you see it at the same time, but I don't know if can you guys see, or am I blocking myself?
It's like your ring finger on your other hand is blocking a tiny bit, but only when you're at the top.
Oh, can you?
Your other.
Well, that finger's attached to me. Can you see it when I'm at the bottom? Okay, here, maybe I'll go this way. Is that better? Oh, well, I can't outline like that. Okay, wait, let me just outline it, and then I'll show you how it floods. Okay, so I've outlined it. Now, this bag, I will cut it as a wider hole, and then I'll flood it. And you have a lot of people that do the shake method. I'll admit I do tend to shake a little bit, because when it's a thicker flood, you want to give it that like shaky shake, like washing machine shake, so that it can help find its settle. If you do a looser flood, you really don't need to do that as much. But I will, let's see. Oh no, I don't really shake it so much. But when it's a bigger area like this, like I'll bring my scribe to go to the edges, because I of course pick like an intricate design to show you, and totally big. But again, I don't have a lot of patience to go all the way around as slowly. Like, I like to decorate a cookie in like no time at all. But I will take the icing and I will move it towards the edges. I don't have any questions while I'm painstaking.
Simple rusty.
Okay. So the icing isn't stiff enough that it will it will like harden itself completely. And then I will give it a little shake. And as you can see, it's flooded and it's flat. Here's one little dot, but you can dance around it. Okay, ta-da, flat cookie. See, and it has a nice little puff, which I do like a little puff, you know, on the edges. But here's the deal. Once your cookie is flooded, you really don't want to shake it anymore. If you've ever noticed when you've moved your cookies and they were, you see like a hairline crack coming down the top of them, that's because the top layer of your icing started to set, but the bottom layer was not set yet. And you moved your cookie and it, the bottom ripped it open, if that makes sense. So the key to everything is that once you decorate the cookie, you don't want to stack another tray over the cookie because that will stop the airflow of drying the cookie. So that will cause a ripple effect. You ever see like the ripples in it? So it was like not enough air, and then some of the water got trapped. I will be honest with you, decorating cookies has become more of a flippin' science project and understanding evaporation than, you know, 6th grade science. So you also have dehydrators. We can talk about that. My ovens, fortunately, have a proof mode, which is 100 degrees. So I will put them in my ovens on proof at 100 degrees. If you don't have a dehydrator and you don't have an oven that does that, you can turn your oven on with the light bulb and it will actually get it warm enough in there that it will help dry it. So you have that issue. What else am I forgetting? But definitely, I got caught one time. I went and I made all these cookies and I stacked it, and I stacked like crisscross, and they got all ripply because the air couldn't flow to it. So then let's talk about, Karen, do you need to let the outline dry for any length? Perfect question, Karen. You have multiple types of cookie decorators. So you have the ones that like this to see a straight outline. They outline all their cookies, they let them dry, and then they come back and they flood so that you can see it. Then you have ones that like to outline and immediately flood, so that way the flood merges into the outline and the outline disappears. Then you have the type of cookiers that will outline, but then they use the outline as a barrier to create a puff over the kind of like it curls up to the wall, but it doesn't go over it. So I like that. I used to be one where I would outline and immediately outline, I would flood. And because I like that one look. But then I really started to play with just outlining it and flooding it after. And I have noticed I get a nicer edge and a puff with that initial outline. So here's the deal. The amount of time that you would wait if you want to have the outline is a couple cookies, because it dries so fast. So if you were to do 5 cookies, like if I have dozens and dozens, I'll outline like 5 cookies or however many can fit right here on my parchment. And then I will go back and I will flood. Just because I prefer sometimes if I'm doing large batches to not go back to my cookies 400 times. Like I don't like to go through 200 cookies and outline them and then go back to 200 cookies and flood them and then go back to 200 cookies. Like it's not a good, production line. Like, it's not as quick. So minutes is all you really need to wait to outline and then flood. And then if you were doing, let's say you then wanted to do a detail on top, you definitely need to wait, and you need to play with time with that to see how long your icing's taking to dry. Like I know for me, if I need to go back and do any sort of writing on that cookie or detail, I probably would have to wait a good, I don't want to say an hour because it's really not true, but you should wait some time, because you want to remember, if it's not fully dried all the way in, the weight of your next icing will crush what's below it. And then let's also talk about bleeding, because bleeding is a huge issue, especially if you wanted to do like a black next to a white or a navy next to a tan, like a very light color and a very dark color. Sorry, I'm coughing. So here's the deal on that. when you go to do two different colors and you're having them next to each other. So I don't even have an example, but you're having them next to each other. The problem is you have this sweet spot of time. So you need it dry enough where they're solid and they're separate on their own, but not too dry that the dry side wants to suck the moisture from the wet side, if that makes sense. So like, let's say I flood one half my cookie black, and then I want to do the other half like white, like make it look like a black and white. Well, if I wait 24 hours to come back and do that white side, that black is totally dry and is like, oh, hello, friend. You've come with a little moisture. Let me suck you up. And he will wake up and be like, come on, little white guy, let me get on over to you, and he will bleed. So you want him dry enough that he is set and he's good a couple of hours, but not too dry that he's craving a little drinky drink from the new guy that came in. That's a big one. And then for your craters, the reason why you get a crater, you also get bleeding if you put too much color in. It's saturated, and then the icing's not drying at the proper timeline, and everything's missing. And so if you have too much water in your icing and it's too runny, you will crater, because what will happen will be the edges of your icing will dry before the center does, and then it'll sink. So as you see, complete science. All right, let's go back and let's do some more decorating so that we can talk about some other. Let's talk about, let me show you how to decorate if you wanted to keep this in sections. The tree, it's a tree. But if you wanted to keep it in sections, this is what I would do. My arm here, but I will go and I will outline the entire cookie again. Just so that part's done, because I think that's the part that hides my arm for you. Okay, so like, let's say we want to do this tree, and you can do this with anything. You want lines, you want pleats, you want whatever. But let's say I want to have my tree to be like in sections. Okay, so now I've split it in sections. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back in and I'm gonna do the top and the bottom, but I'm gonna do every other one, and I'm gonna leave out so that it can set, and then you can get yourself a nice like line, and then you will end up having it form a design within itself. Like, so it'll show texture, it'll show movement, and it'll do that. Oh, you know what I should have done? I should have brought my cookies in here that I decorated at CookieCon. I just went to CookieCon and took these classes, and they were like ridiculously fantastic.
Hey, Melissa.
Yes.
You talked about the bleeding and being over mixed possibly, or too much dye, too much food coloring. Is that something that you will just in time figure out, or do you test it every time to make sure you've done it right before you do an order?
Come on, seriously, me test everything? No. First of all, you'll figure it out, and second of all, I always say this is when you're adding color to, I don't care if it's royal, it's buttercream, it's what a cake, if you want your batter to be dyed, whatever you're adding color to. I always tell everyone, go less is more. Start slow. You can always add more color. I'm not a person that waits for color to develop. I do not wait. Color will develop, and at a certain point, you'll start to learn, and you'll be like, oh, look at that. It got darker. You'll start to figure out and be like, this is a good stopping point, because as I'm decorating my cookies, I know it's going to go darker, but I use AmeriColor gels. I'm very happy with them. I've used some other ones as well, but AmeriColor is great. I love them, and I do love mixing colors. So even if I have like a red, it might not just have red in it. it might have other colors to get to red or to have a different version of red. So I always say start with less. You can always add more color, but if you go in there and just start glopping in a huge amount, you're going to definitely, you'll see a difference also because the icing will have a different consistency. Kind of like if you put too much color in Swiss meringue buttercream, the buttercream will start to separate because it's too saturated. So this will also it'll also get runny. I will tell you this as well. I color my icing before I thin my icing. So if I'm going to go and do a red, I'm going to take my icing out, and then I am going to, where it's still like straight out of the mixer and it's that nice thick, I'm going to color it, get the color I like, and then I'm going to get the consistency I want. Because you have to remember, gel coloring is a liquid. So if you went to thin out your icing first and got your consistency, then you add your color, your consistency is going to be different because you just added color to it. So always color and then do your consistencies. That's worked for me, and I have never in my life waited for a color to develop, ever. And I don't know if that's the case or I'm just a lucky squeeze. I mean, I really have no idea. Does anyone else have any other questions? No? Okay. All right. So on this cookie, I would love for it to like be longer in between, but I guess I'm going to put this cookie aside just so we can let it sit for a few minutes, because I really want you to see how doing them in sections, it creates like when you see like, and this is why cookies cost so much. Like I had a set of cookies yesterday that I literally had 10 steps to the cookie, and I had to go back every time and do something else, but you have to wait to get the folds and the pleats and all of that. So this is a not a cookie. It's called Not a Cookie. So I received these for free at CookieCon. A lot of classes I've taken, the instructor will flood them on these because it's less cost, it's less time. It's just, it is what it is. So you can buy these. I think they sell them on Amazon. They sell them everywhere, and you can practice on them. So if you have any new techniques or anything you want to try out and you don't want to bake a ton of cookies, you can do it on here. Take pictures, add it to your website, add it to your Facebook page, say like, hey, look what I got. And you're done, and you're good, and you're like golden. So, all right, I'm gonna show you how to do a circle, but I'm gonna do it, and hopefully my hand's not gonna block. But as you'll be able to see is that I only touch down when I want to make contact with my icing, and then I will let my bag lift up, and it lifts the icing like a gentle string. So you don't want to push your bag into your cookie when you're outlining or writing or anything. You want to gently have the bag guide your icing line and have it fall where it may. So let's see how it goes. See, she got all pissy. Okay, see, I attach it, and then I kind of let it guide around. And as you can see, I'm kind of ahead of it. And I'm squeezing out my bag, but it's really not squeezing a lot. And then I will just kind of judge when I get closer, when I can kind of come to, oh my God, that was killer. Okay. I probably should have done a color, I guess. Can you see that? Oh, there you go. That was a very nice circle, Melissa. Thank you. All right. So all right. So now we'll do like pleats on here also so that you can see, because I really think this is like the coolest thing ever. And it's not like rocket science or anything, but I feel like it totally changes the look. And like, look, see, I have a little missing spot. I'll just go fill it in. Icing is meant to be played with. It's meant to have a good time. Don't stress over it. Everyone's cookies look like crap when they started. I can show you some real crapola cookies I've done. A lot of them. But if you just kind of have practice, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I used to hate cookies. I hated them with a passion because I'm a cake girl, but it took me years to make peace with a cookie. And now I honestly really do adore them. But your scribe is great also when you need to get into like tight little spots and tight little areas that your piping bag is just too darn big to. But you see how nice, like the little, it's not a cookie, it's nice. And Courtney, it really didn't, I have to be honest with you, I don't think I ever flooded on the not a cookie because they always had them flooded. It really behaved exactly like a regular cookie because I know Courtney had asked that. But, oh, look. But Courtney, when you pick it up, it doesn't grip like a regular cookie. So just in case you wanted to know that. Here, I'll fix it. All right. And then, but see how, I don't want those to touch, so I'll do that after. As we have any other questions, and you can go like around. I found as time went on, I learned to judge how much icing I needed because you also have to remember if you add too much icing, you're going to overflow. Like it doesn't matter what your consistency is. At some point, if there's just too much in there, the icing can't settle. Like it will go over. So, and then if you ever see a divot, like a low point, that's just because you didn't have enough icing. So it was too underfilled. So, I mean, as you see, like it's really the game of practice. I came from cake first, so I will say I feel like cake was an easier learning curve than cookies. Other people who go the other way are like, no, man, I love my cookies and I can't stand cake. But I don't know. I think everyone's so different. But I think there's like some, huh?
Hey, oh, sorry.
No,
Did someone else talk?
just you.
Can you show us that scribe again up close? It's so beautiful when you do it on that cookie.
Okay, so you have tons of different scribes. I personally like these scribes. They have a bigger ball on them. And the reason why I like them is that as the evening goes on and I'm decorating hundreds and hundreds, my hand's really tired. So I found that if I have like a wider grip on it, it just, it goes easier than a loose grip. So I'm going to put it right here like that. Yes, we do sell them if you would like to buy one, but they are really great. And you can use them for all sorts of things. They work in all cookies and you know, they bring a little sparkle to your workstation. Okay. I think this is set enough that we can pop this little guy up here. Let's see. Oh, I think she is pretty. But see how I personally won't go in with my bag because I feel like it's just runs the risk. So I will bring it in with a scribe. You can totally use a toothpick, and I will be 100% honest with you. When I first got started, I used a toothpick. But then I will tell you, I 100% switched because of the reason I said with my hand getting really tired. And it was too tired to pinch the little toothpick. And so I was like, all right, it's time for
Courtney
scribe.
put it that she has one and she has one and she loves it. And I was going to say, I have two and I love them.
I think they're super fun. Okay, see, you can see the definition. So now imagine if this was in green, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. But then imagine you come back and you airbrush and you can airbrush over this. But now, I mean, how cute is that? You can see the definition of all the leaves. And that's the trick is flooding. And the beauty is that if you had like 5 cookies or 6 cookies again, and you're doing assembly line, you would, by the time you really finished one set, you could honestly go back. Because you see how long it took me to wait. This icing, this consistency is not a long wait time. It's really, really fast. Here, I'll do the bottom. This tree is so dang cute. I know my husband does laugh at me because no matter how many cookies I decorate, I still get very excited when they come out. He'll be like, oh my gosh. All right. See, and you can just move your icing around. It's really, once you nail your consistency, everything else comes together. But it took me a while to figure out that whole shaking the bowl method. I took a class last year at CookieCon with the Painted Pastry, she is amazing. I mean, look her up. You will, if you don't follow her already, follow her. She's really phenomenal. And she does something where she likes to call it a flood, where her outline is somewhere between a pipe and a flood. And that's what she outlines and she floods in. And you could kind of say that this is the same thing, but I'm not going to take her coin term of a flood. But after I took that class, I was like, all right, I think if her outline and her icing is a little bit thicker than mine, because she shakes like her hand is on vibration. I don't even know how her hand moves so fast, but it does. And it's kind of amazing. It's like the fastest ever. I don't like that because I wasn't able to get like a straight line that way. So I loosened it up a little bit and came out with this. This is what works for me. So you got to kind of see what works for you and what works for your project you're doing. I'm so sorry I'm coughing. I'm still kind of trying to get over this. All right, let's do this. Let's color some icing, because I know coloring icing is hard. I think people say it's hard. Oh, and Courtney needs an airbrush class. Courtney, we could totally airbrush. I love airbrushing. I love airbrushing. I love everything. All right. So, all right, let's talk about mixing icing. I wish we had more questions, everyone. Let's talk about that. And we could talk about writing. You want to talk about writing? I don't know. All right, let's talk about mixing icing. So, mixing icing, I will show you. Let's do it together. Let's see. God, this stuff has really good time. All right, let me get icing, and then we will mix a color. Oh, how about we mix black? Because I feel like black is the one that everyone is like, has the hardest time. So I'm gonna show you how I mix regular black, and then I'll mix black from colors. That's a good idea, huh?
I have a question while you're doing that.
Yes.
So like with the Christmas tree, that's kind of easy to imagine to do the different fields and flood at different times. But when you have the cookies, they're like 10 different stages to create a picture and making sure you put the right layers on top. Where do you find ideas like that? Or are you just a design genius?
Okay, I am not a design genius, but I'm gonna pull up. Okay, so my cookie I did yesterday, which all my devices are hooked up, but my cookie I did yesterday was a shoe. And this shoe, let's see, I don't know, how do I do this? Oh, here I go. Okay, if you pull, I'll pull it up. So I actually, on this shoe, I went and I first had to go and look at the picture. I was copying a picture of a shoe. So, okay, so I'm just gonna take this camera off so then you can see, because I'm gonna go like this. So then you can, is this gonna work? Can you see? I can't see everything, it's the problem. Let's see.
Are you trying to share your screen? You can share your screen down.
How do I share my screen? Tell me how to share my screen. That's what I need.
There should be a green button down at the bottom that says share.
Oh, yes. Okay, share my screen. All right. Share.
And then it'll give you some options. You only have one monitor, so it should only let you share one.
Have to grant access. Hold on. For some Zoom. Yeah. Yes. Zoom will not be able to record. Okay. You can choose Zoom now or do it on your own. Okay. Later. All right. So let's see if it'll share. Okay. Share. All right. Okay. do you see my screen?
Yes.
I do.
Oh, this is okay. So I don't really know. Okay, you see the picture in front of me? Because I don't know what I'm looking at. Because now it's like kind of shrunk everything over here. So do you see my picture of my cookies on my screen?
I see your naked cookies and all of your bags.
Okay. So in this, do you see how I had to draw on this cookie? Do you see the lines, Courtney?
Yes. And what edible, is that an edible marker?
Edible marker. And then, okay, so that's an edible marker. And so then I had to go, and step one, I had to do the toe. So I had to decide, and here's the best way I learned how to decide. When you look at an item to figure out which one goes first, you have to decide in your visual which one is in front of the other. So the toe on the actual shoe actually pleats into the fabric. So the toe, the fabric it pleats in, it's kind of higher, so the toe went first. Then after I did the toe, I kind of jumped around. Oh, here you go. So after I did the toe, I did the black outline of the base of the shoe. And then after I did that, I had that all dry. I came back and I did the tan, the cheetah print. And then, so here they are in black, which honestly, the shoe looks like a penis. We all know that, but that's their shoe. Okay. But then after I did that, then I had to come back and I had to do the ring of the strap. And then when that was done, I had to do the yellow dots that would hold the gold that I would have to hand paint for the grommets later. And then, and then I went through and then I drew the little gold buckle on. So a cookie like that, you had to go back so many times, but you have to, in your mind, visually decide, like the fabric of the shoe is in front of the heel of the shoe, so the heel of the shoe will go first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. And I honestly, like, this was, let me go back and I'm going to show you the actual picture of her shoes. Oh, wait, here's a perfect example. So this is the class I took. Oh, here, you can go to my class. So I took this class at CookieCon, and it's a 3D cookie. And as you can see, she outlines this. And this is the coolest thing. So you can go before a cookie is baked or after. But if you want to do it before, you can actually airbrush your design on the cookie and it will bake with the design. Or you can do it after. So she did it after. She airbrushed it. And here's the cookie. And I took this class basically because I wanted to learn how to do the pleats and the folds of the clothing. And I just want you to see the steps. It took 8 hours to do this cookie, but each step I photographed so I would kind of remember, but you had to keep filling it in and in. And as you see, and then it will start to take life, but we all probably don't want to see how many lives it took. But like, here's a perfect example, like with her sleeve, I was saying how you do every other one, and then it creates the pleat. So you see how now it looks like the fold of this arm is like it's folded. And then you just continue going through until literally it turns into, it turned into this. And then it stood up. Let me get you the shoe. So you can see, so here's the shoe. So this was the shoe, and then that's how the whole cookie kind of came. I had to hand cut the cookies, so it kind of went like that. All right, look, I stopped sharing. Look at that. That was fantastic. Okay. I don't think, oh yeah, this is on. Okay, so now let's go back to coloring icing. Let me grab black while we're doing it. Does anyone else have any other questions? So this is AmeriColor. I have the regular colors in my big ones, and then I have all the fun ones in the smaller ones. All right. So let me just switch this screen here so you can see. All right. So as you see, this is the icing that is straight from the mixer. So I did not thin it out or anything. And then I will just mix it. And you can see it turns into a gray. But I'm gonna tell you, like, their colors are spot on. You know, it does not take much and it does not take long for it to go straight to black. But I will say, as you can see, no matter what I do, I'm always dirty. Always, always. Okay, so I just got covered in black. Okay, so for me, I know even if it's not 100%, that this will be black by the time I bag it and go to do my first cookie. So that's black. So you see, it really does not take much to get to black, but here we'll bag it, and then that way, man, you can see. And I really kind of bag everything in these cups. I got these cups, and I got these bowls, which I have to be honest with you, are like my new favorite bowls, 79 cents at Target. I love them. You cannot go wrong. I'm telling you, it is like the best thing ever. But so, and then you can also, you'll see this tape dispenser is sold. I know Creative Cookier sells the pink one, if you want the pink one. Honestly, if I didn't realize it, I would have bought it on Amazon. It's like $10 cheaper, not pink. But I didn't know that. So I got the pink one. But this will, honestly, by the time I prep all my things, it's almost dark black by now. But it just continues to go. But as you see, so are my fingers. So are my fingers. So, all right, since this is, I did not change the consistency of this at all, as you noticed, which I forgot. But that's okay. You know what? We'll write on the cookie. Let's write.
Hey, Melissa. I don't know if it's my phone or when you shared your screen and then went back.
Yeah.
It's like you went long ways instead of side to side. Is that just? Did that only happen to me?
No, it's stuck. You might have to flip it the other way.
Well, I flipped it all the way around.
Me or Melissa?
Melissa, you might have to take it back off because it's not responding to your turning. There it goes.
You good like that?
Yay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Is that the right direction and everything? Okay. All right. So because this is thick, let's talk about details, and let's talk about writing, because I know everyone, I know this is like an intro to cookies, but I know everyone always wants to know how to write on a cookie. And you know, what do you do? My handwriting on my cookies and my cake and stuff is pretty similar to my real handwriting. I can't explain it. I don't really know why it is. Some people it is, some people it isn't. But I know the biggest misconception is that everyone is like, how do you write on your cookie? And make it raised up. Alrighty, so I do the same thing when I'm writing. You know, it's the same. It's really about, oh, see, and then I had a fart. But it happens. But it's the same consistency It's just all about consistency. So once you get your consistency down, you'll be able to do pretty much anything you want to do. But here's the trick on the writing that everyone always wants to know. So the big writing that everyone's like, what do I do? What do I do? So you have a couple of things. So people are always like, how do I get it like proportionate in? There's a lot of people that will start with the middle letter of the word. So like, let's say I want this word to say like birthday or something. They'll be like, okay, this is like a good midpoint. So some people will be like, all right, here, let me just put this H right here. And then they'll spell the word backwards. So people will do that. I don't like that. But I know there are many people that will do that. I've done it in a pinch if I had to. But yeah, so I don't like to do that. But the one thing that everyone likes to do is, with your fancy writing, that new cursive-y, whatever. And I think this is so fun to talk about in this intro because you can practice everything. And sometimes you have, or like, you're trying to figure it out. Wait, hold on. Let me see if I have questions. Would you use this with a stencil for paint your own cookies? I'm going to be honest with you. I do not do paint your own cookies. But I know Christy does. You can do paint your own cookies with, Karen, do you mean that this type of consistency? I don't know. So, but I know this consistency, you would want it to be a little bit thicker to swipe for a stencil to transfer on for your paint your own. Yes, Royal. Yeah, you would use Royal Icing for paint your own. So you would flood your cookie and then you would let it harden and dry. And then you would take whatever stencil you want transferred on, and you would transfer it on with Royal Icing, scrape it on and then let it dry. And then you would make your little round dots for color. So that way they can paint it with the paintbrush. I just never got into them. But they're huge around here. There's a handful of people that want to do it. So, but yeah. But the big thing is that when you're doing the cursive writing, every time you go up is a thin line, and when you go down is a thick line. So if I was going to go up, I would go up, and then I would come down. And I personally liked, and then down, it'll have a secondary. So I will wait for it to harden. Yeah, I can do it where you just push more, but sometimes I like it like this. And then you would go up, and then here's your A would come down. So you would make a secondary. And then when it would come down, and then you would go back, you would fill it.
I know that one's really hard, but you're covering almost all of it.
I know, but I have to do it once and then I have to let go because, again, it's pretty hard when you see it, but you would go back and then you would fill it. See how cute it is? But there is, I will be honest, I went, there is great script books that you can buy that have practicing calligraphy, and then you can take them out, put them in a page protector, and then practice. And it's really, I practice so much. It's like beyond I practice like over and over and over again. So does anyone have any other questions at all? Let me go back to this one. And then anything else, anything I've not touched on that you wanted to know? Oh, Lindsay wanted to know the gadget to close the bags. It's called a bag sealer. You can find them on Amazon. I know Uline sells it. This one is Creative Cookier. But you can, and then the refills are everywhere. I have owned this probably for a year and a half, and I do a ton. And I actually seal my buttercream like this sometimes, and I actually have not had to refill it yet, which I'm close, but the tape comes for a long, long time. So it really will save your life, and you will be happier than ever when you do it. Let's go back and we'll go refill this other cookie so that you can see how this other cookie gets filled in, and then you can see it go. Let's see. Alrighty.
I have a question. Is that the Archon mount that everybody talks about?
Yeah, so I just got it. It came yesterday. I'm pretty excited with it. I have to make my first video. You are my first time on it. I do have a code if you would like, and it will get you 20% off of it. And it will bring the cost for this one is the one that has everything on it. And you can actually have your iPad in the middle part as well. And it comes with a light. And this one, I think with the coupon code, it is $125. So I can put that on. Well, the coupon code I think is Simply Sweet, but I'll put that on the site also if you want to. And the light is super cool. Yeah, I'm very excited. I took this class in regards to talking about Instagram and all this other stuff and videos. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get this. And it is, yeah, super, super cool. You will love it. So far, I'm pretty happy with it. All righty. Let's see.
What are your other favorite tools for cookie decorating? Do you use a Pico or a copy cake or any fancy?
Yeah, so I've had a copy cake for the past like 11 years. And
I'm sorry, a lot of people probably don't know what that is. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
I'm gonna I can turn my camera, but it is a projector. So the copy cake I've had for a very, very long time, and I was a diehard because I got it before Pico came out. A Pico is a small one. So I just actually, when I got this Archon mount, I bought myself the Pico because when I tell you that the copy cake is like ginormous, but I did go and just purchase the new Pico because it's nice and tiny and it fits on the Archon mount. I love it. I loved my copy cake. I honestly, if you have the room for it, it was great. The difference is that with the copy cake, you have to print off whatever it is you want to copy and put it in there. And then I will be honest that once I hooked this little puppy up, it was so much sharper and so much cleaner because, you know, certain times of the day there was shadowing on my copy cake and, you know, it's kind of a bummer, but I did just buy this one. I got it on Amazon. I think it was like $2.39. It is wireless. This one was wireless and the picture was just pretty impressive. So I did switch to that. My other favorites, of course, I have an airbrush that I love. I use the one from Creative Cookier. And I'll tell you honestly, the reason why was I took a class and that instructor used it. And I had a old airbrush from like Master that I would use for my cakes, but it just was never as precise. So I switched over to this one and it has 3 guns so that I can do multiple colors and not have to change out my colors in between, which I do love that. Of course, I think my number one cookie thing that I couldn't live without is my sheeter, but that's a little bit more. I originally got my sheeter for fondant, and then when I got into cookies so heavily, I moved over and started doing that. Yeah, so I do love the sheeter. I have a heat sealer from Amazon. I mean, simple and easy, $19 dollars. Here, let me get it. You can see it. I like my heat sealer. Super easy to heat seal. I am a ribbon girl, so I will usually, will try to get everyone to want a ribbon because I personally think it's so pretty. So I mainly do ribbon, but then there's some instances I'll just heat seal. I get my bag line, like the quality. I get my stickers from but they were just ridiculously expensive, and I could only get them. I started only buying them at Cyber Monday, but then they were just ridiculous. So I moved over to Sticker Giant, and I highly, highly recommend it. They're fantastic. I don't know what else. They're my favorites. I don't know. What are some of your favorites? What does everyone love? Anything else exciting? I don't think so. But I'm here. I'm going to go back and I'll keep doing this one. And listen, if you have any other questions, oh my gosh, poor Karen had someone knocking at her door. How funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. How do you roll your cookies? So I roll my cookies about 3/8 of an inch. I like them to be a little bit thicker. I will say that these cookies, they were for the amusement park. So I did them only 1/4 of an inch because I was basically backing them up because just wasn't necessary for them to be as thick. So I could cut my costs down a little bit, but that's my preference. And then because I do freeze my cookies when I make cookies. So I roll my, would you please post some actual products to, I will post everything that I talked about. I'll post a list of all of Melissa's favorites. I will post them all on the page, so then you will be able to see exactly what are my list of favorite things. But so when I roll my cookies, you can see they're all exactly the same. I, of course, have a sheeter, so that will get the exact same thickness. But I only started using a sheeter for my cookies like a year ago. So you will, before that, I was just hand rolling. And then I just kind of did it by feel. I know there's ones where you can roll like they have like the guides on it and you can do it. I never did that. I went literally straight from my touch to a sheeter because I just did that. But I freeze my cookies before I bake them. So I just personally find that it just makes the edges nice and good. So that just works for me. I know there are recipes out there and I'll put them on, like Leela Loa, she's got one, and there's a handful of some recipes out there that you can try. Some are no freeze, some are freeze, some are chill, some are no chill. Honestly, you have to do what works for you. Like when I first started doing cookies, I had the recipe where I made my dough and then I had to let it rest for 30 minutes and then chill it. And then I rolled my dough and then it went to chill for 15 minutes. And then I cut my dough and it went in the freezer to freeze for 15 minutes. So it was like so many steps. It was ridiculous. So, but I use the same recipe and I make my dough, I cut it, and then I freeze it and then I bake it. So yeah. Do you need to adjust your recipe for high altitude? I will be honest with you. I am not at a high altitude. I'm in Virginia. I would definitely kind of poke around and play and see what works for you. I can totally help you and investigate what might need to be added for higher altitudes. But when I roll my cookies by hand or on the sheeter, I do not roll with flour. I roll in between 2 pieces of parchment. So whatever is in the recipe, nothing more gets added to it. I know that there's people that roll with flour. There's people that roll with confectioner sugar and all that. But I don't do that. I don't have a cream cheese recipe. Mine is just a butter-based recipe. So everything is a factor, and it's really what works for you and what you like, and what flavor you like and what flavor your area likes, so who you're selling it to. So you kind of got to go with all of that. But yeah, but I always just, and then I know there are some people that only like to roll their cookies out a couple times, and then they feel like it tastes totally different if they continue rolling. Not me. I roll my dough until every little morsel is gone. And that last cookie I rolled tastes exactly like the first cookie I rolled out. So there's no difference there either. But that would all just come from trial and error and experiment and to see. And then I also, when I bake my cookies, a lot of times I'm making multiple different designs. So I live by parchment paper. I roll my cookies out and I cut them and I stack them on my baking sheet. And then I just go layer and layer and layer, so that when everything goes in the freezer, it could be 15 layers high. I just stack cookie on top of cookie. And because the cookies are on each other, they're supported and they're not crushing anybody below. And I will throw it all in the freezer like that. Then when it's time to bake, all I have to do is lift each piece of parchment up and place it on the baking sheet, and in the oven it goes. Cut down on time, cuts down on space in the freezer. So if you have a large quantity that you're doing or whatever, I usually do the cookies for the amusement park. So this year they were low. Last year they did 17,000 of them. So this year was only, I only had to do 14,000. But of the 14,000, I had to do 2,300 hand decorated ones. And that's where some of these trees were left over because they didn't need any more trees. So I had 4 left in the freezer, or 5. But I've had to find out the best ways to cut down on time and production, make the dough and to roll it out and to cut it and to freeze it and to bake it and to box it. And so it was out. I had a certain amount of a window to do it. And I had 2 months to get all, thousands of cookies out of here. And so that just came from trial and error of me figuring out for you so that you didn't have to waste your time to do it. But it took a lot of trial and error, a lot. Does anyone have any other questions at all? Anything that is somewhat cookie related, or maybe not really, in the intro part or a little bit further on? I know everyone's at different areas of their cookie experiences. And I have gone to many classes and I'd be like, well, I'm not going to go stand up and look while she's mixing icing because I've been doing cookies forever. But I'll be honest with you, I never put my bag in a cup to fill it. And I thought, God, that's such a nice, easy trick. I always had it in my hand. So sometimes, someone does one thing and you're like, oh, that's a good little trick. So I know everyone can always learn from everyone. That's what we're here for, is always to learn from each other. But I know we have other classes coming up, and we have,
Melissa,
yes.
how long do you let your cookies cool after you take them out of the oven before you start to decorate them?
Oh, well, this is a good question. Again, I've already made it pretty clear. I am a procrastinator. So I will be very honest with you. They will come out of the oven, and if I'm in a pinch, I will actually put them in the freezer to shock cool them as fast as possible. But I will decorate my cookies the moment that they're room temperature. They have to be at least room temperature. I will also take cookies out of the freezer. They can be cold, and I've never had a problem icing a cold cookie. I don't decorate a frozen cookie, but if the cookie's still got a little chill to it, it's never had a problem for me. And I don't wait long. So as long as I can put my hand on the cookie and it's nice and room temperature-ish, it's fine. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
You're blowing my mind right now because everybody's like, well, you have the butter bleed, you have to put it on paper towel overnight and let it sit there. And, people are like, why do you put butter in a cookie if you're just going to soak it back out of it? So do you get bleeding? Do you do any of that?
No, I don't have butter bleed. I live on parchment. I don't ever move to paper towels, but my cookies do sit on parchment. And they bake on parchment, and when they're decorated, they sit here on parchment, and then they go back to the thing on parchment. I've never even experienced butter bleed. And I know people are like, oh, did you get this butter from here? The butter from Walmart bleeds, or the butter from Aldi bleeds. Butter is butter, people. Like, it's your recipe. Either your recipe is too much butter, or you're not incorporating your butter enough. But I've never, never. The only thing I've ever had bleed with butter was when I made like Nestle's chocolate chip cookies, and we used to put them on paper towels. But no, mind blown. How much butter? I think it really depends. But how much do you put cream cheese in? Because maybe that's it. I don't really know. Why do you think cookies blow up in the oven? Oh, you mean like puff up? That's because your butter. Here's why cookies change shape. They change shape because your butter is not cold. So when your butter is cold, again, it's all science. When your butter is cold, it can maintain the shape in the oven through the baking process. So if you were to bake, let's say, chocolate chip cookies with like Nestle chocolate chip cookies with room temperature butter, and you put it in the oven, what's your cookie gonna do? It's gonna spread. It's gonna spread right out because your butter was already soft, and then the shock of the heat of the oven, you put butter in the microwave, it's gonna spread. But if you go and you take that Nestle Toll House recipe and you make it, and you chill your dough, or you put cold butter in your mixer and you put it in the thing, your cookie will stay in a nice firm disc. It won't go anywhere because it's cold enough to withstand the heat. Enough it doesn't bake, but enough that it holds it sharp, that it doesn't leave. So that's why most people freeze their is because it makes the shape. I do know, and I will 100%, there are many recipes out there that are no chill recipes. I've personally never tried them. People stand behind them, and like, I know Lila Lola has one that everyone is like, it does not. I will be honest with you. I tasted the cookies at the CookieCon taste test. It was not for me. That is all I will say. But you know, you can try it. But I just found that the cookies never move for me. And then I know people say, oh, it's the baking powder. It's the baking soda. I have baking powder in my cookies. I just freeze them. And not for a long amount of time, just enough so that when my hand touches them, they have a chill. Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, so I know we have a lot of classes coming up. We have the Easter cookie decorating class, which is gonna be probably, it's gonna have those designs, but I'm gonna throw some more advanced designs in there also, just because I feel like, you know what, let's push the envelope. And I feel like it helps give you somewhere where you're like, all right, let's do something good, and then we'll go bigger. Yes, I'm still doing, tomorrow is the cake basic class. That is still 100% tomorrow. And then I know that I think I'm gonna we're supposed to go through, Christy and I are gonna go through our April classes, but I know there's gonna be some like very like advanced cookie classes with like specifics on writing and intricate designs, and I think more fondant cake, more, you know, advanced cake classes. And I know Christy has, I believe, a rosette cake class coming up. Is that right, Christy?
Yep, I'm gonna do rosette, and I'm gonna do a drip cake, and then I'm also going to do an Easter cupcake.
Right. So we have lots of things coming up. We're always looking for new ideas because we absolutely love doing this, and it's so much fun. The scribes are on the link. If you guys want to go out and, you know, purchase a scribe, they're fun, they're wonderful, I love them. You also can still always buy the magnet if you need help with measurements or whatever. It's so cute on your fridge. I will go through and make sure that all the goodies and the little things I talked about of all the manufacturers and everything, that we have it listed. Hopefully by tomorrow we'll have a better voice. But like, as always, if you have any questions, you get stuck when you're doing your decorating, you can always ask. Don't feel like you can't. Will you show any Russian tips? I don't know. Maybe we will. That's probably a good idea. I do have them, but so we could possibly get into the Russian tips also. They kind of were really huge, and then I don't know if they're as huge anymore. I think everyone's super excited with these sugar sheets right now. So there's always something new in the cake world. Super exciting. But I have had an absolutely great time with everyone. Thank you so much for your understanding from having to postpone it. It was so sick, but it was worth the wait for me, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see you guys. Hopefully you guys will be around tomorrow. And if you have any other questions, let me know. And love you all. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Melissa, can I ask you guys to list one more thing?
Yeah.
Can you post some of your favorite cookie cutter sites? There's a lot of things that seem super trendy right now, like the onesie with the little girly ruffles and different stuff like that. And I can't find some of those super trendy cutters.
Yeah. I'll post those. I think Sweet Lee has the one with the onesie with the ruffle, but I'll post a list of all of them. But I think it might be Sweet Lee. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.